Welcome to another episode of AI News You Can Use with me, Dr. Marie Haynes. Yes, we are going to talk about search news, but it is really important for us to understand what Google just announced at Google Cloud Next this week. I'm going to talk in this episode about agents and how what we know currently as search engine optimization or even search engine marketing when it comes to ads is going to radically change. And this is going to start happening very soon because Google's already given us the framework for building these agents. So what I want to do today is try and describe what these changes are. We're going to talk about Agentspace. We're going to talk about Google's agent development kit, and more importantly, the Agent2Agent Protocol, which I believe is going to radically change the web. I mentioned in last week's episode how Google's Demis Hassabis, the CEO of DeepMind, had said that the structure of the web is going to change dramatically, and the way that we interact with the web is going to change. And I'm thinking this is somewhere, years in the future, but it's actually here now. I think there's great opportunity for those who understand how these agents will work. I think there's a lot that we don't know about them. And so my hope is that this conversation is not too confusing, but because there's so much for us to try and understand. And those who do, I think there will be massive opportunity. Google said that every enterprise will have multiple agents through which they communicate with customers and with other businesses. And if that's the case, there are going to be hundreds of millions of businesses who are looking for people who understand agents. I especially am thinking of people who are out of work right now. I would highly encourage you to start learning more and more about agents. Right now, we're at a phase where nobody is the expert on this. And so we have tons of opportunity for us to learn, to advise businesses, to create new products. I think this is going to open up all sorts of opportunity for new revenue streams. And there's a lot that we have to learn. So at Google Cloud Next last week, Google announced several things that are massive, and each of these could be a podcast episode on its own. They announced Ironwood, which is a new chip for AI, a tensor processing unit that has 42.5 exaflops of compute. That's a massive amount of computing power. They said that the world's largest supercomputer at the moment currently has 1.7 exaflops of computing power. So 42.5 exaflops, this is not my area of expertise, but what I'm learning from this is that Google has a ton of computing power. When I was at Google I/O last year, Jeff Dean gave a talk, and he was talking about how Google had advanced in terms of machine learning. He said the thing that always held Google back from going further and from doing more was the amount of compute that they had. So we are about to see AI go exponentially more powerful than it currently is. Google announced some other stuff, including Google Docs will now have AI audio overviews. You've probably seen in Notebook LM the audio podcasts. Imagine now your Google Docs will be able to produce podcasts or summaries in audio form. And what a great thing that'll be for many, many businesses. They announced Google Chirp, which is new text-to-speech HD quality voices. And this is important when we come to what we're going to talk about soon, the customer engagement suite that will have AI agents that sound like real people. They also announced Google Lyria, which is a text-to-music model, which sounds absolutely incredible. But what I want to focus on in this episode is agents. Agents are going to change how businesses interact. They're going to change how we do SEO. They are going to open up new opportunities for those who understand how to use them, but they're also going to make some businesses unnecessary. And I know that that's a difficult thing to hear. I thoroughly believe that those sites that were impacted by Google's helpful content update probably were impacted because Google could see that there's going to be less and less need for sites that provide information that's already clearly known around the web and in the world. And so our key in making money with agents, in having success with agents, is to be offering something to the world that is new, that is unique and original with you, or to be the world's leading expert in some particular area where people are going to be seeking out your agents. Let's talk for a minute about Agentspace. So this is the first thing that kind of blew my mind at the Google Next event. Agentspace is for use within agencies, or not agencies, within offices. You need to be a fairly large workplace in order for you to get accepted for Agentspace. When I spoke to a Google rep, and it was funny because they asked me to, if I was interested in Agentspace, and I'm like, agents, Google? Of course I'm interested in this. And then it turns out that you need to have 100 seats. I don't know if that's still the case now, but you need to have a fair number of seats and you need to pay for each of those seats in order to use Agentspace. But if that is you, then Agentspace can radically change how your office works. So they demoed a situation where the agents, basically your company will have multiple agents. So some of them could be that they just draw from your information. All of this information would be private to your company. It's not like you're giving your company documents for AI training to Google. But they showed an example of maybe there's an onboarding agent. So you've hired a new employee and your onboarding agent will walk them through the things they need to know about your company. That onboarding agent may talk with an HR agent who will set them up with the things that are necessary, within the office or within their home workspace. And, perhaps that HR agent communicates with payroll agent. And you can see how all of these agents talk together. Each of the individuals in your company can also create their own personal agents. So let's say your job is to report to clients on how their finances are doing. Then you can draw from whatever agents your company has to get the information that's needed. And perhaps you've created your own personal agent that puts that data into charts and into maybe even a video that you show your clients. And so eventually what we're going to see is that when there is information in a company, everybody in that company can use that information in the way that works best for them. That's really exciting. I just had a meeting with my Search Bar Pro members. We had a fantastic meeting. We were supposed to talk about images in AI, and instead we talked all about agents because that's all I can think about right now. And Jeannie Hill had this fantastic idea that I've just reached out to Google to see if we can do. When they talked to me about Agentspace, I was a company of one. I still am a company of one. And because you need 100 seats, they were like, this is not going to work for you. But still, they talked to me for quite a while about agents, and I got all excited again about them. Well, Jeannie was saying, what if the search bar, my community, becomes the company, and we produce agents that could be used within the search bar? So then we could have an agent where perhaps one draws from my newsletter, and I help you personalize your agent that pulls out the interesting AI news and gives you ideas on how you can benefit or profit from that. Or perhaps I have an agent to analyze traffic drops like I would, and or maybe another agent to help you create content or to implement some of the experiments that we're doing in using different techniques to try to optimize to get into AI overviews, things like that. And so it's possible that the search bar may become a collection of agents that you could use. So we'll see if that actually happens. So Agentspace is exciting. It's not the most exciting thing I'm going to talk about, though. The next thing is the customer engagement suite. This is something that is going to change how people communicate with businesses on the web. So in the video from Google Cloud Next, in the presentation, they described a demo where, actually they demonstrated it, where a man was surfing the web and he was going to buy a product from a garden store. And what he was buying, he had two products in his cart that were soil for planting his flowers. And then a chatbot kind of popped up on the side, and he had a voice conversation with the chatbot. I'm telling you, it sounds like a real person. It really does not sound like AI. And this chatbot was talking to him saying, can I help you with your purchase? And he said, I'm not sure if I have the right soil for the plants that I have. And the chatbot was like, well, what plants do you have? And he said, well, can I show you? They switched to video. So this week I got access to Project Astra, which is really cool. I've been using it for my plants, actually. actually, and a number of other things to just point the video at something and go, I'm not sure how I'm supposed to use this, or I'm not sure what this problem is. And then Project Astra using Gemini will be able to see my video and converse in real time with me. So in this demo, the agent could see through video, and said, oh, that's a beautiful petunia you have there. And actually, the soil that you have in your cart isn't the right kind. And it suggested that he swaps it out for another soil. And so the agent changed what was in his cart. Then he asked if they have any landscaping deals where somebody could come to his house and plant. And the agent drew from information that it had about the store and said, yes, we do. We have this thing and it costs this much. And he said, well, could I get a discount on that? Like maybe 50%. Now, you've heard all these, I'm sure you've heard these horror stories of agents that if you prompt them just right, you can get them to agree to give you like 100% discount or give you, I think somebody a couple years ago prompted an agent to sell them a car for $1 or something like that. Well, this agent said, I'm not sure if I can do that. Let me talk to my supervisor. So then what it did was it pinged a human at the company. The human got a message from the agent saying, this customer is asking for a discount. The human replied back saying, well, we can't give him 50%, but we could maybe give him 30% off. And so then the agent went back to the customer and said, great news. I've negotiated with I've talked to my supervisor, and now you have a discount. So, and it went on like this, that you can have these real, like very vibrant and real and helpful conversations with an agent, which is going to really help people decide what products to buy and really to decide whether they're going to be using your store. So that is something that's very, very exciting. I think it's going to take some work to implement it. And I would imagine when people first start implementing it, we're going to have some stories of it not working well. But it is something that's going to change how everybody interacts with stores. But that's not the most exciting thing. What I'm most excited about is Google's Agent Development Kit and also the Agent2Agent Protocol. So Agent Development Kit is a Python framework. And I know I've lost some of you now because you're like, I'm not a developer. I don't program things in Python. But let me tell you, it's not that difficult. And I think it's worth spending some time in Google's documentation. I'm going to write a blog post, at least I hope to, that has links to all of this documentation. So if you go to mariehaynes.com/blog, you'll find it there. And the Agent Development Kit, in under 100 lines of Python, you can create an agent. And all you need is you need to get an API key from Google, which you can get from either AI Studio very easily or from Google Cloud. You have to have a Google Cloud account that is attached to a credit card. Now, let me talk about that for a second. When I first started talking about AI in search, a lot of people said, well, Google would never do that because it's going to kill their business model. We know that Google makes the grand share of their revenue from advertising. And if Google's giving AI answers and people don't have to go to websites, then they've just cut off a bunch of their revenue. Well, I think that agents will become a bigger revenue source. And so if I have to get an API key from Google because I'm using their Gemini, I'm using the compute power from Gemini, then I need to pay for that. Now, right now, using Gemini is actually quite cheap. I have been playing around with making agents and doing all sorts of stuff via the API. I haven't put anything into production yet, but it's cost me like 3 cents a month, I think. Not very much. They did recently announce, actually at Google Cloud Next as well, that you can use VO, which is the video generation, text to video, through the API now, and it costs 35 cents a minute, or no, a second. 35 cents a second, which is, it could add up. But to generally use the AI models through Gemini is not very expensive. But over time, if you imagine every business is going to have multiple agents, this is going to be a revenue source for Google. So I want to read a quote from one of Google's blog posts this week. They said, "Every enterprise will soon rely on multi-agent systems." Every enterprise. Multiple AI agents working together, even when built on different frameworks or providers. That's something that Google said is this agent-to-agent protocol, which we'll talk about. You don't have to just use Gemini. They said that there are, I believe, 200 of the popular language models. I didn't know there were that many, are all going to work with this protocol. So if you like building stuff with ChatGPT or with Claude, that's going to be fine. You can still create your agents with whichever language model you want. I'll go on to read here. Agents are intelligent systems that can act on your behalf using reasoning, planning, and memory capabilities. Under your supervision, they can think multiple steps ahead and accomplish tasks across various systems. So these agents, we're going to be creating them. I think we still have to imagine what they're going to be. I'm going to share some examples near the end of this podcast where what I've imagined it's going to look like. But I think we can't yet imagine what we're going to be seeing with these agents. So right now, Google has what's called an agent garden. And there's eventually going to also be an agent marketplace. So I could create an agent and you might say, like, let's say I create an agent for optimizing content. And I might make it available for you to purchase or lease or buy a subscription to, perhaps. And if you're an SEO agency, then you might say, well, you know what? I want to use Marie's agent and you pay me money for it. So I think that's how that type of thing is going to work. So in Google's Agent Garden, they currently have a few example agents, and one of them is going to shock you. I sound like a Google Discover headline, perhaps. There's a data science agent. There's a travel concierge that helps people make decisions on where to travel. And one of them is a brand search optimization agent. This agent analyzes your keywords, your brand keywords, and it analyzes your competitor search results, compares titles and descriptions, and it generates suggestions to enhance a brand's search engine ranking. I am not kidding. It analyzes competitor content and how competitors are performing for target keywords. I did spend a bit of time looking at the code. So the code is there. You can find it in GitHub. And basically it's multiple agents that talk to each other. So there's an agent for finding keywords that you are maybe missing out on. There's a search results agent, which it goes to a particular page, takes a screenshot. I'm not sure if that particular page is Google search, perhaps, and it can click on competitors. Like, this is pretty wild stuff, and it's right there in under 100 lines of code that you can implement right now. I haven't done it yet, but I want to. And there's also a comparison agent that does a bit of work to, see how you're comparing against competitors. So this is probably like a very simple version of an agent. I think that we'll be able to put a lot of our knowledge and expertise and our strategies into agents, which will save us a ton of work and also make it so that my strategy and my process, or your strategy and your process, that you can offer that to others, whether it's employees that work in your company, or you could sell it to clients, to other people who do similar work on the web. So this is going to change how businesses communicate with each other. Now, speaking of communication, this is what Google announced is an agent-to-agent framework. This is meaning that there's going to be a protocol for agents to communicate with other agents. So let's say you've built your own suite of agents and you really like Claude, and I've built mine using ChatGPT, using OpenAI's language models. There will be basically a way that my agent can communicate with your agent. Now, you might be thinking, some of you have heard of MCP, Model Context Protocol. And I'm going to hopefully I don't lose anybody here because it's a little bit complicated. From what I understand, these are two separate things. So Model Context Protocol is something that was suggested by Anthropic, the makers of Claude. And what it does is it helps agents connect with tools. So there will be a standard protocol to allow agents to use APIs, basically. Like if I wanted to connect with Google Search Console via my agent, there's a standard way for that to happen. The amount of data that gets transferred back and forth will be standardized. That's for agents to connect with tools. Google's agent-to-agent protocol is for agents to connect with other agents. And we're going to eventually have this whole ecosystem where there is communication amongst agents all around the internet, which is a little bit hard to wrap my head around, but I see that it's going to be happening. So agents can use tools. Some of the tools that Google put in their documentation is the agents will very easily be able to connect with PayPal, with Stripe, with Google Calendar, with Shopify. And I think, one of the things that we will see is learning to optimize to, if you have a tool, to make your tool attractive to agents, which is going to be a different thing than search engine optimization. These agents, as you have an agent, they each will publish their capabilities and how they interact with users. So this is going to be done in a JSON format. And it's basically like a card. I think that's actually what they call it, is the agent card that says, here's what this agent is and here's what it does. So let's say I'm having a conversation with my personal agent. My personal agent might be ChatGPT, it might be Gemini, it might be something that I've developed from open source. And let's say I ask it a question about, I'm really interested in buying this particular product. Well, my agent will go search for an agent that's likely to be helpful in making that decision on the products. I'm going to talk a little bit more in a minute about specific use cases. But in order to do that, it will look at the card of the agents that are potentially suited and will make a decision based on whether it seems to be the agent that's going to meet my need. Then those agents communicate. Now, they communicate with each other via something that is called artifacts. Artifacts could be data, it could be a file, it could be an image, potentially a video, and each agent produces an artifact or multiple artifacts that it will give to the other agent. And so basically it's like multiple employees talking, or multiple workers talking to each other, that they have these conversations and say, hey, can you help me do this? And that agent says, sure, let me produce this. Maybe I need to go talk to another agent. It comes back with a full document for you, and it gives that document, the artifact, to your agent, which then synthesizes it for you. These agent-to-agent interactions, it's kind of like the HTTP protocol that allows us to interact with websites, except that protocol is quick. It happens very quickly. Agent-to-agent interactions, some of them might take hours or they might even take days. One of the examples that Google gave was, I mentioned this before, but an employee onboarding agent. It might coordinate over several days with a training agent that walks people through orientation for joining a company. So these agents are basically communicating with each other in order to be as helpful as possible to us, the user. So let's talk about how this changes our industry. How does this change SEO? SEO is not dead. As long as there are businesses that need to be found on the internet, then there is a need for people to help these businesses. However, much of the practice that we do currently as SEOs is going to radically change. And as I said before, I think some websites that currently exist are going to be less and less needed. So I had this fantastic conversation with Deep Research. I used ChatGPT Deep Research and also Gemini Deep Research, and asked, what I did was I gave it all of the documentation that I found from Google producing on Agent2Agent framework and Agentspace and all of these different things. And then I asked the Deep Research agents to, it's kind of meta, isn't it? To speculate on what the future would look like, on how this would change SEO and how it would change the structure of the internet. I'll link to, from my blog post, I'll link to both of those conversations. They were fascinating. I actually think the ChatGPT one was better. It might be because I like the ChatGPT Deep Research better. It takes longer than Gemini. But Gemini's better if you really want to browse the websites that were recommended, which for some things I like to do that. But let me tell you what came out of this conversation with Deep Research. So ChatGPT said it pictures that there's going to be an agent-rich ecosystem. So a user will delegate a goal to our personal agent, And then that agent will search and synthesize info basically on the user's behalf. And then they're going to use these agent-to-agent conversations to do that. Instead of having, so let's say I was looking to buy a new DSLR camera and I'm like, I want one for under $1,000. Right now, I might go to search and I might see a list of 10 blue links, or in some cases, there's an AI overview that shows me product comparisons. But search is kind of where I would go for that type of information right now. Some people might have communications with their language models about that. Actually, that's probably where I would go too. But in the future, a very near future, what's going to happen is my agent will go out and start querying various product agents. So that agent might be the sites themselves. It might be it might go to Canon and might go to Nikon and look at these different websites to find the specs of all of these products. But perhaps my agent will go to review websites. And I think there's still going to be a need for review websites. Review websites, though, have to be amazing in order for them to be useful for an agent. Because in terms of specs, we're going to be able to get that from the product manufacturers themselves. But what's different is your experience. So let's say you're a photographer, you're a professional photographer, and you have tried a particular product and you have shared what you really like about it, what you don't like about it, what you found to be the best inexpensive camera, all those things. Your value in your experience is something that will be important to agents. Now, the question I have is, how do you monetize that? Because my agent is going to get that information from your agent, which has synthesized the information from your reviews, but I didn't look at any ads to do that. And that's where I think you will actually be able to charge some money to connect with your agent. And if you're good enough at sharing your experience, it might be something where, maybe you get paid a few cents or a few dollars for each time that somebody requests access from your agent. It's possible that that could happen. And then my agent's going to come back to me and give me a curated answer after it's connected with all these other agents. And my agent, I might say to it, I think I'm going to buy this model. Can you find me the cheapest price? It goes out again and does its research via Agent2Agent Protocol, and then probably could just make the purchase for me because my agent's going to know my address. I will give it my credit card information. What I've seen when I've used Operator so far, OpenAI's Operator, is before it does something that actually has a consequence, it will ask for your permission, basically. So it's not like agents are just going to suddenly order everything you've ever dreamed about on Amazon. It will ask for your permission to do that. So here's a quote from my deep research that I thought was really good. In the agent-mediated world, the classic SEO goal of ranking on page 1 of Google results evolves into becoming a trusted source for agents. I think that that's probably what we're going to see. And then we might see the emergence of, we're going to have to think of new acronyms again. ChatGPT suggested agent SEO or maybe agent experience optimization, where we optimize our content or our services so that AI agents can find them and understand them. It even suggested that search engines will evolve to basically be agent directories, and then search would be an orchestrator of the agent directories. Now, I know what you're thinking is like, I kind of like doing search. I like browsing. That will always be there. I can't remember if I saw this or if I read that it was going to happen, but I swear I saw at one point a picture of Google search where AI mode was the default, and then there was a button to go back to classic search, which is the traditional 10 blue links. I think that AI mode will eventually morph into using Gemini as our personal agent for those who want to use Gemini. And then we're going to see less and less that we go to these websites, but instead our agents synthesize the information. And so here's an example that ChatGPT gave me. A travel query might rank a flight booking agent or a travel blog agent. So I just recently did a consult with a travel blog. And one of the things I noticed was that this site was really good at putting information together that already existed on the internet. And they've struggled with recent updates. And the reason is because information that's known is less and less important. It was important. I actually think that Google used us for many years. They gave us this revenue opportunity where we could create content, organize content, and give it to Google. And now that's not working anymore. I don't think it's particularly fair, but I also don't think that there's any way that we can fight against it. And so now what I advised this site was you need to get out there. They actually have people in this area that they advise on travel for that use their firsthand experience, except that all of their blog posts were written like they were encyclopedia entries. And instead, what I would love to see is that they write about the time they went to that restaurant and the really cool thing that the waitress said and the best thing that they loved on the menu and that type of experiential content. So you might create an agent that is things to experience in this city agent. And if it's good enough, if it provides people with helpful and unique information that they're seeking out, then that's something that probably will be sought out by agents who are trying to figure out how to best meet this travel query. And so SEO kind of evolves from making your website relevant to search queries to making your agent the preferred one that users find the most helpful, which is kind of a different way to think of things. So let me just think for a moment about different types of websites and kind of speculate on how agents are going to change how your business works. I've already talked about information websites, that you need to have something that's unique and uniquely helpful to people in order to succeed in an agent-driven world. I think that I will be creating agents that other people will want. And if you're running an SEO agency, perhaps you license my agents to help you improve your work. The thing is, though, eventually, the businesses themselves could probably just license my agents. And so I think what's going to happen is that the best of every industry will rise to the top. And right now we're in a situation where anybody who wants, my neighbor down the street could just decide, I want to be an SEO agency and create a website and, have a chance at succeeding. I think in the world of agents, unless you have a successful business, it's going to be very hard to get a start as a new business. I know that's disappointing for some, but for those who are doing really good work, if you can make your processes into agentic flows and use agents to get more success for your clients, then I think you're going to do really, really well. Let's talk about service websites. Like, say I'm a lawyer, or for my American friends, an attorney. I've never understood the difference between the two. I'm just going to say lawyer. Well, first of all, you'll have internal agents. So you'll have agents that help you keep your documentation. You'll have research agents that help you find things that you need for your cases. You'll have customer service agents, maybe some with voice, that act as receptionists, and then maybe bring to a real person a communication that needs to have human communication. And then, those are all a part of Agentspace. But what about the web? Right now, you use the web to produce websites for people who are looking to hire a lawyer. And you have blog posts that you've written on the services that you offer, in an effort to try to get people who are searching for a lawyer on search. I think that eventually what's going to happen is you will have an agent card that represents what your particular firm does or company does. And then also probably your agent card is going to have information about what you're known for, what type of services you have. And then it's probably something where there's going to be information known about your reputation, about the reviews, what people say about you. And even eventually, I wonder if agents will be able to determine which agents people found helpful. And again, the most helpful, the most reputable lawyers are going to be surfacing at the top. And so I don't know how that changes our economy and our business world. I think that if you are excellent at what you do in your service, then agents should be a really good thing for you. If you are a company that has thrived off of good marketing rather than being the best, then it's going to be more and more difficult to get business. So let's say that I'm looking for a particular type of lawyer. Like say I want a real estate lawyer. Well, I'm going to be talking with my agent, and my agent will seek out and connect with the agents of lawyers that are likely a good fit for me. So my personal agent will know where I live, will know the complexities of the real estate deal because it's connecting with my real estate agent. Oh, that's funny, real estate agent. Well, and I think there'll be less and less need for humans as real estate agents. I think a lot of what human real estate agents do right now will be replaced with AI agents. And then my personal agent will know how I like to communicate as well. And, maybe some people want a really very business professional lawyer, and I want one that's going to have a little bit of levity and, enjoy the conversation with them. My agent will know that, and it's going to go out and it's going to find me a real estate a real estate lawyer agent that is going to suit my needs. But I think that there could be more opportunity. Like, I think it's not just about having your business found. I think if I was a real estate lawyer, I might create an agent that is filled with knowledge on specific questions that would be asked in my area, like maybe zoning regulations or local tax implications, questions that, only a real estate lawyer in your city would know. And so if you can produce a helpful agent, then there's more likely a chance that my agent will seek your agent for information. And when it comes to something that I actually need a human for, which I think for the short term, we will still need human lawyers. I can imagine the time though, where most of what's done in the legal space is completely done with AI agents. I think it'll take some time to get there. But if I need to actually engage with you, then, my agent is going to choose somebody who really is the best fit and the most helpful for me. Let's talk about e-commerce. We've talked about the customer experience agents, and those are the chatbots that are going to talk with your customers. Those are important, and I think that businesses that have those and have helpful customer experience agents are going to be more likely to be recommended by personal agents. So again, you need to be creating. You either need to be the best product, be the manufacturer of a product, and if you're kind of a middleman who sells products that other people manufacture, then you need to be providing an experience that really helps somebody who's going to be buying that product. And we need to be thinking about what types of things agents are going to go looking for. So perhaps producing buying guide agents or, agents to help people choose what model they're going to buy, that type of thing would be very, very important. I want to talk about, I have a number of clients or clients that I've spoken to in the past that are either affiliate sites or lead gen. And I have real concern for these sites, although I think that in the short term, there's going to be some big opportunity. If you have like a calculator or you have forms that help people choose which product or service to go to, eventually I think the services that you're recommending are going to have their own agents, and there will be less and less need for an agent that advises me on those multiple agents, if that makes sense. I think, though, that there's a window of time because major corporations, it might be a while before they jump on the agent bandwagon. And I think some of these sites that do lead gen or do affiliate things, if you can create a really helpful agent, and this is why the word helpful is so important, why Google has emphasized it so much. If you can be something that really helps people make their decision, then my personal agent is more likely to want to connect with your agents that are going to help me. And then eventually you can recommend, sell the lead or whatever. But I think that that's a very short window. And eventually, businesses are going to have, every business is going to have multiple agents. So my agent can just go out and find the best option for me by looking at those. I think, search platforms like Google are still going to continue to play a role in connecting people to answers. But I think a lot of those answers are going to be delivered by agents in the future. ChatGPT said this quote, "The web could become more of a data and knowledge fabric that agents tap into, which means SEO will extend to optimizing presence in that fabric. For example, being a part of a relevant agent network or maybe data hubs. Content strategy might also shift. For example, creating content that an AI will find useful to quote or use might become as important or as appealing to human readers." So, I'll just share one quick thing about ads. I think that AI is going to radically change ads for a number of reasons. ChatGPT suggested that instead of ads, we will probably pay for the opportunity to have conversations with people. So let's say my main revenue source is consulting, and you are doing some searches on how to implement AI into your business or how to create agents or whatever. Well, perhaps I pay for an ad where my agent can talk to you and help you make decisions, and then say, by the way, if you want to actually talk to Marie herself, here's the way that you pay her and do that. So I think that we're going to see a new type of ad, which is geared towards agents. Chat thinks that maybe we'll see some type of bidding, kind of analogous to ad bidding, where agents bid to provide a service for a user's request. I think that probably will happen. So, if you have expertise, if you can figure out how to package that into agents, I really think this will create whole new revenue models. We're going to have subscription-based AI services. Chat suggested we might even have success-based fees where you can connect with multiple agents, and whoever, so if your goal is to make more money, to like, even for SEO is to improve search engine rankings, the agents that actually do it, search engine rankings, does that even matter? Improving agent rankings maybe, are the ones that have the most success will be able to charge more, perhaps. McKinsey reported a couple years ago that generative AI and agents have the potential to add trillions in economic value by automating knowledge work and by producing the types of things that we've just talked about. So I think we're really at the start of something. And given that Google has given us this documentation and the ability to start implementing things, I really think we should start learning that. I know you are probably way too busy. I know I'm way too busy, but it will be worth your while to dedicate some time to learn this topic more. So what do we do now? I recommend that you read everything that Google has written on the Agent Development Kit and that you try to play around with it. Even if what you're producing is not really good, you'll be getting experience in how to do this and understand what's happening. Again, I'm going to have a blog post out soon with links to all of these resources. If you're a member of my community, the search bar, you know in real time that I've been updating all of the important information. For the paid members, we've been having a bit more discussion on how to actually implement these agents, and I think that we're going to have some really cool stuff come out of the search bar. So I think we have a lot to learn. I'm more excited than scared about this, but I have to say that there's a little bit of trepidation because we're going into brand new territory here. Okay, so my daughter made me promise that I'd end with something cool. She says I'm not cool enough. So these are her words. She said, "If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, and better yet, share with someone you think would find it helpful. And until next time, I wish you the best of luck with everything."